For those who don't know me, my name is Dion, and I'm just so passionate about photography. It's all about chasing that perfect light, capturing a moment in time to cherish and share forever. Right, we're going to start with a quick rundown of all the materials needed for this project. Firstly, you need your MDF 9mm thick board, which we're going to cut to size. Always remember to cut your MDF board at least 2 to 3 centimeters smaller than your print. Then we need adhesive spray. I use this Boyle from Australia. You can get a 3M product, which is very good. You need a little spirit level. You need ordinary wood glue. You need a hand drill with a 3.5mm wood drill bit set at 23mm. You need your back spacer timbers that you're going to secure to your back of your mount, and these are 18mm thick by 28mm wide, and then the screws are 25mm wood screws, 4mm in diameter. And then a little wood screw or screwdriver, a little hammer, craft hammer, some handy pliers, sanding to sand your MDF board and your back spaces. I just always sand all the back and the sides to make sure they don't have any sharp edges, so that it all looks neat and finished. A little crimping tool for the cables and your hooks. Standard set of hooks, picture hooks for the back. 2mm cable, PVC cable. 4cm painter's blue tape. A pen to mark, and a craft knife to trim off your print when you glue your print to the back of the board, so you can trim the edges off nice and neatly. And then just moving over to the resin, I use Barnes. It's an equal part A and B mix. I have a large disposable cup just for mixing, some sticks for stirring and mixing, some little measure cups, and then the actual flame burners, flamethrowers at the back to get all the bubbles out. And what else? A ruler. And basically that's all you need, plus your print, obviously. Your printed photo print to mount on the board. And that's all the tools you'll need for this project. So just to run through it again, a 9mm MDF board cut to size for your image. Your image always 2 to 3 centimeters larger than the board, so you can trim off once you've stuck it on. Your 18mm timbers, and you also just need a hand drill. I just have a cordless hand drill, and that's a 3.5mm wood drill bit, slightly smaller than the screw diameter. The screws are 4mm and this drill bit is 3.5. The bottom spacer is about 1.5 centimeters from the bottom and equal parts here. Doesn't exact, I've got at least 3 centimeters on either side. And there you can see I've just drilled the holes, and what we do is we just set your drill bit to not be more than 23 millimeters, so the screw's only 25, and you do a little bit of a pilot hole, as you see it goes through into the MDF board, not to go right through the MDF board. The next item we want to now secure to the MDF board are these two supports to mount the cable, and I've spaced it about 3 centimeters from either side and 4 centimeters from the top. So we just hold that into position as such, and we just mark out where we're gonna drill holes in the center, equal spaces from the top and the bottom. Just make sure that this is also symmetrical. I've just eyeballed it out, so put it back there, and you just take the drill and we drill through slightly into the MDF board, and the drill bit's only set at 23 millimeters. We take 2 screws and we just get them mostly through timber. Just so they protrude slightly through. Just remember, these are 4 millimeter diameter wood screws, and they're 25 millimeters long, and the drill bit is a wood drill bit, and it's 3.5 millimeters in diameter, slightly smaller than the actual screws. And we're just going to put some glue on like that, and then put that back into position into the holes, and we just tighten it down with a screwdriver into the MDF board like that. Like so. I've secured the 2 little hanging hooks, as you can see, on the inside of these supports, and we're going to string through the cable, the hanging cable. So we've just looped through the cable and through one of the crimping lugs like that, and we'll just crimp that and do the same on the other side. Right, we finished crimping both sides, and very nice, strong and secure. You don't want this too loose, because you don't want when the picture hangs on the wall, you don't want the picture leaning forward, and you want this stringing cable to be as close as possible to the top without the actual hook protruding and showing behind the picture. For the center of gravity, you need to be at as high as possible to its max, and make sure that it's not loose. You need a little bit of room like that for just to easily hang it, but I wouldn't make it longer or looser than that. And that is the back done ready. What we do now is we paint the sides black, just with normal acrylic black paint, and now the picture will be, the mount will be ready for the photo to be glued on. Alright, what I do before we adhere and glue the print onto the board, we just seal the back with an ordinary acrylic sealer with a soft brush. Always remember to wash your brush after you've used it in soap and water to save your brush. And once that's dried, oh, just a tip, use ordinary baking paper. Especially with epoxy resin and glues and such, it comes off the paper a lot easier off baking paper. So that's just a tip I can share with you. So we seal the back, and then once it's dried, we're going to tape up the edges on the back in preparation for the resin before we adhere the print to the front of the board. And this is to ensure that when we resin, you get little droplets dripping off on the back, and it's easy to peel off, so you get a neat back finish. Alright, so in preparation of before we resin and before we paint the edges black, we've sealed the back first with a acrylic sealer as shown earlier, just a water-based acrylic sealer. And now we're taping up the sides and the support legs in preparation for resining. This is before we mount and adhere or stick the glue the picture to the board. And we tape this up just with ordinary 1.5 inch or 40 millimeter builder's painting tape. And we just tape up the edges. This prevents or protects the back from resin drip off when we actually resin the front, so that the resin can be peeled off easier and we protect the back. Right, now once the back has been taped up with the painter's tape to protect the sides, we're actually going to paint the sides nice, just black with normal black acrylic paint. And not to worry if some of the paint gets on the front, because the actual photo print's going to cover all that, so don't worry about that. But the tape is going to protect the rest of the back. So we just paint the sides neat with black acrylic paint, and I would generally, after it's dried, seal it as well, just to give a nice finish with the epoxy resin, like that. And you do all the sides. Alright, how do I stick my images to the mount? I use an adhesive spray, and in this instance I'm using Boyle. I got from the local hardware. It's an Australian product, pretty good. And what you need to have, ensure that your board is dust free. A spare piece of paper to put over your print when you rub it down or roll it down, and preferably a scratch-free cloth to just rub around the print to ensure that all the bubbles airs out of the print. Just make sure that the area behind your mount has got some paper you can throw away, because when you're going to be spraying, it's going to get quite tacky. So what we first do is we spray horizontally across slowly a layer, and then vertically across another layer, and then let it rest for a minute or two to dry. So we're going to start on our vertical. Alright, I've just sprayed the horizontal and vertical layer of the spray adhesive, and I'm letting it rest for 1 or 2 minutes. And what you need to have ready is a guide here to lay down your print or your artwork, so that when you roll it down, you're not laying it down crooked. So you've got a guide here square on the sides, and just have a scratch-free cloth, your artwork, and a piece of baking paper to place over your artwork when you actually rub it down, not to scratch your artwork. Alright, so what we're going to do now is grab the artwork. Remember, the artwork always needs to be a couple of centimeters wider, and we're just gonna eyeball it like that, and we're gonna lay it down gently like that. And I'm just going to start pushing out any air bubbles, just gently from the center out to the sides, just to make sure the picture adheres to the board. And you can go quite near the edges to ensure that the edges are nicely also stuck to the edge of the board. Like so. So before resining, make sure your picture is level, and I just put ordinary baking paper below to protect the table from the resin, and the resin really peels off very easily off the wax paper, off the baking paper. Just ordinary baking paper, domestic baking paper, and I just tape it down to a level table. Yeah, just make sure your picture's nice and level. Check your level both ways, and your table underneath is protected with ordinary domestic baking paper taped down to your level table, and it's ready for resining. So we're about to ready the next batch. So always what I have it do is a measuring cup, and I work out roughly how many is needed for the area, and it's equal parts A and B. The back there is a large mixing cup, disposable, a large mixing stick, and a smaller one to scoop out of a small cup, and just a couple of handy paper towels just to wipe down your gloves while you're working. Alright, we've mixed up our resin, and I've let it rest for at least 10 to 15 minutes just to get the maximum air bubbles out and let the chemicals start reacting, and also it starts hardening slightly so that it's not so runny when you pour. Always keep a couple of handy towels nearby just to keep wiping off your gloves, and important, a toothpick just to pick off any hairs or anything that could end up on your image on the pour. And I always tape down the table with ordinary baking paper. This protects the table, and once the resin's hardened, it just peels off very, very easily. So it's quite a nice tip to have. So we're going to start pouring, and what I do is always start from the center and gradually work my way in a rectangle motion around from the center out to the sides. Let it run naturally, and if you need to, you can just take a stick and just slowly move some of the resin to the areas that don't have enough resin. But you need to babysit this now for at least 2 hours to ensure that everything is fine. So we just go from side to side, slowly keep on moving side to side, torching all the bubbles out. I do 3 torches. I do a torch and then I wait for about 10 minutes and then I'll do another one. So what we do is now we check with the light. We keep on checking, babysitting it, making sure that there's no low spots or more bubbles or hairs or big parts of dust that settle on the image. So we keep on checking it until at least for 2 hours after pouring. But so far looking good. Well, thanks for watching, and if you have any questions, please drop me a message in the comment section and I will get back to you.